Great question in ethics is what is the good for the human agent? What is the purpose of our life? And what we've been looking at in Aristotle is a mode of analysis which is meant to bring us to that question. In virtue of what would we say of a human person that he's a good human person? What makes the human agent to be a good human agent? The function analysis, as we're calling it, that we find in Aristotle and which was rehabilitated in recent times, is meant to be the device that enables us to answer that question. We saw that the structure of it is rather straightforward. Geach's position is clearly the triumph of common sense over theory in pointing out that the way in which we appraise a car as a good one is by asking, well, what is an automobile? What's it for? And in the light of that kind of knowledge, we're able to appraise a car as a good one or a bad one. Of course, even that kind of appraisal can be very complicated. If we say so-and-so is a good golfer, that doesn't mean that he performs just one swing well, but he has to have a whole repertoire of swings in his game before we're likely to say he's a good golfer. Sometimes we would qualify it and say, well, he drives well, or he's a good putter, or he has good approach shots, but that's about the sum total, one or the other of those. So that we would say he's good in a sense, but not a good golfer in the sense that he doesn't play the game taken totally well. So that even in these seemingly very simple examples, we would find on analysis that they're complicated enough, so that we're not really startled to find that when we try to apply this analysis, the function analysis, to the human agent as such, that we're going to run into the recognition that it's really a very complicated thing to talk about the function of a human being. But again, it's a complicated thing to talk about the function of a golfer, for that matter, or a Swiss Army knife. So Aristotle is perfectly ready to acknowledge, in fact, he's the one who brings it to our attention, that rational activity, the proposed definitive function of a human being, is ambiguous in the sense that it lends itself to a variety of connected meaning. So it's not purely equivocal, but it is what Thomas would call an analogous term. It has a set of meanings which are related and controlled within that set. So Aristotle, as I was indicating, gives three meanings right away of rational activity: theoretical thinking, practical thinking, and those activities other than thinking which are amenable to the direction of reason. Now, what this comes down to in Aristotle and in Thomas and in many others is a recognition of a distinction between intellectual virtues on the one hand and moral virtues on the other. Moral virtues tend to be, the term virtue in the moral sense tends to be reserved for the excellence of rational activity in the most extended sense of the term. That is, insofar as our appetites come under the influence of reason. So what would be the first way in which one would want to distinguish between intellectual virtues and moral virtues? If we think of the excellences, the perfection, the doing well of theoretical thinking, what we're going to be reminded of are the sciences. Aristotle distinguishes a number of virtues of the theoretical use of our mind, a number of them. And what characterizes them, by and large, is this: intellectual virtues are acquired by learning. Moral virtues are not. Now, notice how this connects with an earlier discussion as to whether or not the study of moral philosophy will make us morally good. What Aristotle insists on at the beginning of the second book of his Nicomachean Ethics is that the great difference between intellectual virtues and moral virtues is that the first, intellectual virtues, are learned. They are things that we can be taught, whereas moral virtues are not acquired by learning.